Supreme Commander Vex Thari stood before the massive holographic display, his three eyes scanning the latest territorial reports. The Zephyrian Galactic Empire stretched across 12 star systems, each world conquered and controlled by his people's superior technology and unified command. For 3,000 rotations, no species had dared challenge their authority. The War Council chamber hummed with quiet efficiency. Representatives from all 12 member species sat in their designated positions, their various forms creating a rainbow of colors and shapes around the circular table. The crystalline Vorthak with their translucent bodies, the towering mechanical nexus units, the flowing energy beings called lumens, all united under the Empire's banner. "Commander," spoke Advisor Kelthra, her serpentine form coiling as she gestured to the display. "Our scouts have discovered a new system on the outer rim. Designation Sol 3. The inhabitants call their world Earth." Vexithari's attention focused on the small blue planet that appeared in the center of the display. It looked unremarkable, floating in space like countless other worlds they had claimed. The initial scans showed basic information: oxygen atmosphere, water oceans, and signs of primitive civilization. "What stage of development?" he asked, his voice carrying the authority that commanded respect across the galaxy. "Early space age," replied Science Coordinator Nexus 7, its mechanical voice perfectly modulated. "They have achieved basic faster-than-light travel, but their technology is crude. Chemical propulsion, primitive energy weapons, and no unified planetary government." The hologram zoomed in, showing detailed scans of Earth's surface. Cities sprawled across continents connected by networks of transportation. But what caught the Council's attention were the red markers scattered across the planet, indicators of active conflict zones. "They fight each other," observed General Thrackmore, his forearms crossed in amusement. "Look at these readings. Multiple nation-states engaged in territorial disputes. They cannot even achieve peace among their own kind." Laughter rippled through the council chamber. The idea of a species so primitive that it fought itself seemed absurd to beings who had achieved galactic unity millennia ago. The Empire's strength came from order, from the careful coordination of different species working toward common goals. Their military capabilities? Vexthari inquired, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer would be disappointing. Nexus 7 processed the data streams flowing from their reconnaissance probes. Kinetic projectile weapons, crude energy shields, nuclear fission devices. Their most advanced vessels barely achieved 1/10 light speed. By our calculations, a single Imperial battle group could neutralize their entire orbital defense network within one rotation. "Estimated resistance duration?" asked Admiral Vosneth, her aquatic form floating in its specialized command pod. "Minimal," Nexus 7 responded. "Their divided governments will likely surrender individually rather than coordinate a unified defense. We project complete subjugation within 10 rotations at most." Vexthari studied the data one final time. Earth's population numbered in the billions, making it a valuable addition to the Empire's workforce. The planet's natural resources showed promise, and its location could serve as a strategic outpost for further expansion into the Outer Rim territories. "They call themselves humans," added Intelligence Director Scythic, his tentacles dancing across multiple data screens simultaneously. "Carbon-based bipeds, average lifespan of roughly 80 standard rotations. They show typical primitive behaviors, tribal loyalties, resource competition, and emotional decision-making." "Emotional decision-making," repeated General Thrackmore with obvious disdain. "No wonder they fight among themselves. How can a species advance when they let feelings override logic?" The Council murmured their agreement. Emotional species were always easier to control. Once their initial resistance crumbled, they typically accepted Imperial rule rather than face extinction. It was a pattern the Empire had seen countless times across the galaxy. "Very well," Vexthari declared, his decision carrying the weight of absolute authority. "Deploy Battlefleet Gamma to Sol 3. Standard conquest protocols. Demand immediate surrender and integration into the Empire. If they refuse, demonstrate our superiority with targeted strikes on their military installations." "Should we expect any unusual resistance patterns?" asked Admiral Vosneth, though her tone suggested the question was merely procedural. "Unlikely," Scythic replied. Their historical records show they typically fragment under pressure. When faced with a superior force, their governments will prioritize their own survival over collective resistance. We predict immediate capitulation from at least 60% of their nation-states. Vexithari nodded with satisfaction. Another world would soon join the Empire's growing collection. The humans would learn to appreciate the order and prosperity that imperial rule brought to primitive worlds. Their chaotic, emotional nature would be channeled into productive labor for the greater good of the galaxy. Battlefleet Gamma will depart within 2 rotations, announced Admiral Vosneth. Fleet Commander Rathkek will oversee the operation. Standard complement of 200 vessels, including orbital bombardment platforms and ground assault units. Excellent, Vexithari replied. Send the usual surrender terms ahead of the fleet. Give them time to consider the wisdom of peaceful submission. Most species prefer to avoid unnecessary destruction when presented with clear evidence of our superiority. The Council began discussing assignment protocols for the human population once conquest was complete. The stronger specimens would be useful for manual labor, while the more intelligent ones could be trained for basic technical support roles. It was all routine, the same process they had followed hundreds of times before. As the meeting concluded, none of the Council members gave Earth a second thought. It was just another primitive world waiting to be civilized, another species that would soon learn the benefits of imperial order. The humans would join the ranks of conquered peoples, their rebellious nature tamed through proper education and work assignments. Vexithari dismissed the Council and returned to his private chambers. Outside the great windows, the lights of the imperial capital stretched to the horizon, a testament to the Empire's power and organization. Soon, Earth would shine with similar lights, its chaotic cities transformed into orderly centers of production and learning. Battlefleet Gamma prepared for departure, its crews confident in their mission's success. The conquest of Earth would be routine, another minor victory in the Empire's endless expansion. None of them suspected that they were about to encounter something the galaxy had never seen before. A species that grew stronger when threatened, more unified when divided, and more dangerous when cornered. The humans were waiting, though they did not yet know it themselves. Fleet Commander Rathkek reviewed the surrender demands one final time as Battlefleet Gamma approached the Sol system. The message was standard, translated into the primitive human languages by the Empire's linguistic processors. Submit to Imperial authority, accept integration protocols, and enjoy the benefits of galactic civilization. Refuse and face the consequences. The response came faster than expected. Instead of the usual delays while planetary governments debated among themselves, Earth's answer arrived within hours of the ultimatum's delivery. Rathkek expected the typical fragmented replies, some nations surrendering immediately, others attempting negotiation, a few foolishly choosing resistance. What arrived was something else entirely. A single transmission from Earth, broadcast simultaneously by every major government on the planet. The humans had somehow coordinated a unified response in mere hours. Despite their documented history of constant conflict, the message was brief and delivered by representatives from each nation-state, speaking in perfect synchronization. No. Rathkek stared at the communication display in bewilderment. Not we need time to consider or let us negotiate terms. Just a simple, absolute refusal from a species that should be terrified by the sight of 200 Imperial warships appearing in their star system. Sir, reported Navigation Officer Kessethu, we're detecting massive energy signatures across the human home world. They appear to be mobilizing their entire military infrastructure. Expected? Rathkek replied, though something felt wrong about the readings. Begin demonstration protocols. Target their largest military installation with precision strikes. Once they see our capabilities, they will reconsider their position. The first engagement occurred above Earth's primary moon. 3 human vessels, primitive by Imperial standards, approached the fleet's outer perimeter. Rathkek ordered a squadron to intercept and disable them as a show of force. The human ships should have been destroyed in seconds. Instead, they scattered in patterns that confused the Imperial targeting systems. Rather than following predictable flight paths, they moved erratically, using maneuvers that no logical pilot would attempt. They're flying directly into our weapons fire, reported Tactical Coordinator Venther. Our computers cannot predict their movements because they make no strategic sense. One human vessel actually accelerated toward an Imperial cruiser instead of away from it, passing so close to the hull that its engines scraped the ship's armor. The maneuver should have been suicide, but somehow the human pilot used the Imperial ship's own momentum to slingshot away at impossible angles. Their tactics violate basic principles of space combat, observed Science Officer Yethny. They treat physics like suggestions rather than laws. But that was only the beginning. As the skirmish continued, the humans began adapting to Imperial weapons in real time. They analyzed the energy patterns, calculated the recharge cycles, and started predicting where the shots would come from before they were fired. More disturbing was what happened to the one human ship they managed to damage. Instead of retreating or requesting assistance, the pilot deliberately rammed his crippled vessel into an Imperial corvette. The resulting explosion damaged both ships, but the humans seemed to consider this an acceptable trade. Self-sacrifice for tactical advantage, Rathkek muttered. Their own computers warned them the collision would be fatal. Sir, we're receiving another transmission from Earth. Communications Specialist Nothek announced. This time the message came from a single human, an older male wearing what appeared to be military decoration. His voice carried an edge that made even the experienced Imperial officers uncomfortable. You wanted to see what humans are capable of. You just got a small taste. Those 3 ships you fought. Training vessels with volunteer crews. If you want to see what our actual military can do, keep pushing. We have had thousands of years to perfect the art of war. You have made the mistake of threatening our home. The transmission ended, leaving the Imperial fleet in stunned silence. Training vessels? The ships that had confused their targeting systems and traded kills with Imperial warships were not even front-line units. Impossible, Venther said. Our intelligence reports indicated this species barely achieved spaceflight. How can their training ships match our combat vessels? Before Rathkek could respond, the sensors detected new contacts rising from Earth's surface. Not dozens of ships, but hundreds. Vessels of designs the Imperial computers had never cataloged before, emerging from hidden facilities across the planet. They were prepared for us, Science Officer Yethny realized. All those energy readings we detected during their mobilization, they were not just activating existing weapons, they were building new ones. The human fleet approached in formations that defied Imperial military doctrine. Ships of different sizes and capabilities mixed together without apparent organization, yet somehow they moved with perfect coordination. It was as if chaos itself had learned to follow orders. They are not following any recognized combat patterns, Tactical Coordinator Venthar reported. Our battle computers cannot formulate appropriate counter-strategies because their formations make no logical sense. Perhaps, Rathkek said slowly, that is precisely the point. The second engagement began as the human fleet closed distance. This time the humans did not scatter or retreat. They attacked with a ferocity that shocked the Imperial crews. Ships that should have been destroyed kept fighting, using damaged systems in ways their designers never intended. More troubling was their apparent complete disregard for their own safety. Human pilots performed maneuvers that had significant chances of killing them, seemingly without hesitation. They treated their own lives as acceptable losses if it meant damaging Imperial ships. Sir, Communications Specialist Nothek called out, we're intercepting human battle communications. The Imperial officers listened to the translated chatter from human ships. Instead of fear or desperation, they heard excitement. The humans were enjoying the fight. They called out tactical suggestions to each other, celebrated successful hits, and encouraged their comrades when ships were damaged. One transmission stood out. A human pilot whose ship had lost most of its weapons systems was heard saying, "Well, looks like we're doing this the hard way. Any of you bastards want to see what a real ramming run looks like?" The damaged human vessel accelerated directly toward the Imperial flagship. Rathkek ordered all weapons to focus fire on the incoming ship, but the human pilot somehow kept it flying despite taking hits that should have vaporized the hull. At the last moment, the human ship detonated its remaining fuel reserves. The explosion rocked the flagship and temporarily disabled its primary weapons array. As the blast faded, another transmission reached the Imperial fleet. "This is Admiral Chen of the Terran Defense Force. You wanted to know what humanity is capable of. We have shown you patience, courage, and determination. What you have not yet seen is anger. Continue this attack and you will learn the difference. Rathkek stared at the tactical display, watching red markers multiply as more human ships appeared on sensors. Each vessel showed energy signatures that suggested rapid technological advancement. Somehow, in the short time since first contact, the humans had improved their weapon systems. How long have we been in this system? He asked quietly. 18 standard hours, sir. 18 hours. In less than one rotation, the humans had unified their planet, mobilized their military, engaged Imperial forces in combat, analyzed Imperial technology, and begun implementing improvements to their own weapons. What species could adapt that quickly? The answer, Rathkek was beginning to realize, might be one that the Empire had seriously underestimated. Supreme Commander Vexthari received Fleet Commander Rathkek's first report with growing disbelief. What should have been a routine conquest update had become something far more troubling. The humans were not surrendering. Instead, they were fighting back with an effectiveness that defied all projections. Repeat that last part, Vexthari commanded, his three eyes focused intently on the communication display. Rathkek's image flickered with interference from the ongoing battle. Sir, the humans have reverse-engineered our energy shield technology. In 72 hours, they have not only figured out how our defensive systems work, but they have integrated improved versions into their own ships. Impossible. The Empire's shield technology had taken their greatest minds centuries to develop. No primitive species could understand it in 3 rotations, let alone improve upon it. How? Was all Vexthari could manage. They captured debris from damaged Imperial vessels during the initial engagements. Our scientists estimate it would take any known species at least 50 rotations to reverse engineer our technology. The humans did it in 3. The War Council chamber erupted in confused chatter. Representatives from all 12 member species struggled to comprehend what they were hearing. The crystalline Vorthax bodies pulsed with agitation, while the Nexus units ran rapid calculations to verify the reported timeframes. Furthermore, Rathkek continued, they are not simply copying our designs. They are improving them. Human shields are now 30% more efficient than ours. They have found ways to reduce power consumption while increasing defensive capability. Science Coordinator Nexus 7 processed this information with visible strain on its mechanical systems. Commander, this violates everything we understand about technological development. Species advance in predictable patterns. They do not leap forward by centuries in a matter of rotations. Tell that to the humans, Rathkek replied grimly. They have also weaponized our own plasma technology against us. Their new energy cannons use modified Imperial focusing crystals. They are literally shooting us with improved versions of our own weapons. Vexthari felt something he had not experienced in millennia. Uncertainty. What is your current tactical situation? The transmission showed the space around Earth, now filled with wreckage from both fleets. But the Imperial losses were mounting, faster than human casualties despite the Empire's supposed technological superiority. We are losing ships faster than anticipated, Rathkek admitted. The humans fight like no species we have encountered. They sacrifice themselves willingly for tactical advantages. They use damaged ships as weapons. They coordinate without apparent communication networks. Coordinate without communication? General Throckmore interrupted. That is impossible. Military coordination requires command structures and data networks. The humans seem to operate on instinct, Rathkek explained. Individual ship commanders make split-second decisions that somehow align with overall battle strategy. They act as if they can read each other's minds. Intelligence Director Scythek's tentacles writhed with agitation. Perhaps they have developed some form of telepathic communication we cannot detect. Negative. Our sensors show no unusual psychic emissions. They simply seem to understand what their allies need without being told. It is as if warfare is their natural state. The implications of that statement settled over the Council like a dark cloud. A species for whom warfare was natural? Every other race in the galaxy had evolved beyond constant conflict. Violence was a tool used only when necessary, employed with calculation and restraint. Sir, Rathkek's voice took on an urgent tone. I must also report that the humans are recruiting allies. They have made contact with other species in nearby systems, non-imperial worlds that we had not yet approached for integration. This was worse than unexpected resistance. The humans were turning their conquest into a diplomatic incident, potentially creating a coalition of worlds opposed to imperial expansion. What are they offering these species? Admiral Vosaneth asked from her aquatic command pod. Military protection and technological exchange. They are sharing their rapid development techniques with anyone willing to resist imperial authority. We estimate that at least 6 systems have agreed to provide support. Vexthari's mind raced through the strategic implications. If the humans could convince other species to resist imperial expansion, it would create complications across multiple fronts. The Empire's strength came from facing divided opposition, conquering worlds one at a time before they could organize collective resistance. How are they communicating with these other species? Nexus 7 inquired. They have only achieved faster-than-light travel recently. They are using our own communication networks against us. They hacked into our quantum relay system and are broadcasting messages throughout the sector. They learned our encryption methods and broke them within hours. The council chamber fell silent. The Empire's quantum communication system was supposed to be unbreachable. It had taken their best minds decades to develop the encryption protocols. They are spreading information about Imperial military tactics and ship designs to every species in the region, Rathkek continued. They are teaching others how to fight us. Recommendation? Vexathari asked, though he suspected he would not like the answer. Request immediate reinforcements. Deploy at least 3 additional battle fleets to Sol 3. The humans are adapting faster than we can develop new tactics. We need overwhelming force before they become an even greater threat. General Thrakmore's forearms crossed in frustration. This is absurd. How can a primitive species require 4 battle fleets? We have conquered entire star systems with less force. Sir. Rathkek's voice carried a note of barely controlled panic. You need to understand something about these humans. They do not fight to win territory or resources. They fight to survive. And when a species fights for survival, they become capable of things that logical minds cannot predict. Before Vexthari could respond, another voice joined the transmission. A human voice speaking in perfectly fluent Imperial Standard language. This is Admiral Chen of the Terran Defense Force. We have been monitoring your communications, Supreme Commander Vexthari. We know you are considering sending more ships. Please reconsider. You have seen what we can do with limited resources. Do not force us to show you what we can accomplish when we stop holding back. The transmission ended, leaving the council in shocked silence. The humans had not only intercepted their secure military communications, but they had also learned to speak Imperial Standard in the time it took to hold one meeting. They have been holding back? Advisor Kelthra asked in a whisper. Vexthari stared at the display showing Earth's position. For the first time in his military career, he began to wonder if the Empire had made a serious mistake. What kind of species improved their technology by centuries in mere rotations? What kind of warriors fought harder when threatened with extinction? The answer was beginning to emerge, and it terrified him. Intelligence Director Sithek worked through the night, his multiple tentacles dancing across data streams as he compiled the most important report of his career. What he discovered in the human historical records would change everything the Empire thought it knew about this species. The humans had been surprisingly helpful in providing their own history. Too helpful. They had transmitted their entire cultural database along with tactical information, almost as if they wanted the Empire to understand exactly what they were facing. As Sithek processed the information, a terrifying picture began to emerge. The humans had not recently learned to fight. They had never stopped fighting. For their entire existence as a species, warfare had been their constant companion. Every major advancement in human civilization had come through conflict. Their metallurgy improved because they needed better weapons and armor. Their chemistry advanced because they wanted more effective explosives. Their mathematics grew sophisticated because they needed to calculate projectile trajectories and fortification angles. But it was not just warfare between nations that had shaped them. The humans had been forced to fight everything. their environment, their climate, their predators, their diseases, even their own planet's attempts to kill them through natural disasters. SciTech pulled up geological data from Earth, ice ages that lasted thousands of years, forcing humans to adapt or die. Volcanic eruptions that blocked out the sun and destroyed entire civilizations. Earthquakes, floods, hurricanes, droughts. Their world had tried to eliminate them in every possible way. And yet they had survived. More than survived, they had thrived. Each disaster had made them stronger, more adaptable, more determined to overcome whatever obstacles they faced. The biological data was even more disturbing. Humans were not just intelligent, they were persistent predators. They had evolved to chase prey across vast distances, never giving up, never stopping, until their target collapsed from exhaustion. They were literally designed by evolution to never quit. Their psychological profiles revealed species-wide traits that explained their impossible adaptability. When faced with overwhelming odds, humans did not surrender or flee. They became more creative, more desperate, more willing to try solutions that other species would consider insane. SciTech discovered references to something humans called adrenaline, a chemical their bodies produced during stress that actually made them faster, stronger, and more focused in dangerous situations. They were a species that literally improved under pressure. The War Council assembled to hear his findings with growing unease. As SciTech presented his analysis, the representatives of 12 alien species began to understand the magnitude of their error. They have no concept of impossible, SciTech explained. Their history is filled with individuals who accomplished things their own scientists said could not be done. They routinely exceed the limitations of their technology through pure determination and creative thinking. Supreme Commander Vexthari studied the display showing human technological progression. Show me their development timeline. The holographic display revealed a pattern that defied everything the Empire understood about technological advancement. Most species develop new technology gradually, building upon previous discoveries over thousands of years. Human development came in explosive bursts during times of conflict. They went from basic flight to space travel in less than 70 years, SciTech noted. During a period they call World War II, they advanced from simple propeller aircraft to jet engines in 6 years. Under pressure, they innovate at impossible speeds. General Thrackmore's forearms trembled. You are telling us that we have attacked a species that becomes more dangerous when threatened? Worse than that, SciTech replied. We have united them. Look at their historical pattern. When humans fight each other, they make gradual progress. But when they face an external threat that endangers their entire species, they become something else entirely. The display showed human conflicts throughout history. Internal wars lasted decades or centuries with limited technological advancement. But when they faced extinction events, asteroid impacts, ice ages, supervolcanic eruptions, they advanced by millennia in mere generations. They have a saying. SciTech continued, his tentacles pulling up linguistic data. Necessity is the mother of invention. When they need something badly enough, they will find a way to create it regardless of current technological limitations. Admiral Vosneth spoke from her aquatic command pod. What about their social structures? Surely a primitive species cannot maintain unity during extended conflict. That is perhaps the most disturbing aspect, SciTech admitted. Humans are individually competitive, but when faced with an external threat, they form social bonds that transcend all other loyalties. They will sacrifice everything, wealth, comfort, even their lives, to protect their group. The intelligence director pulled up footage from recent human battles. Imperial sensors had recorded humans deliberately sacrificing themselves to save wounded comrades, sharing resources with strangers, and coordinating complex operations without formal command structures. They form what their sociologists call pack bonds. Once established, these bonds override individual self-preservation instincts. A human will fight to the death to protect someone they have never met, simply because that person is part of their group. Science Coordinator Nexus 7 processed this information with visible strain. Are you suggesting that our attack has triggered some sort of evolutionary response? Exactly. We have awakened their survival instincts on a species level. Every human now considers every other human part of their pack. We are not fighting a collection of nation-states anymore. We are fighting humanity itself. Bexathari felt something cold settle in his chest. What are their tactical capabilities when fully united? Sithek hesitated before answering. Unknown. This is the first time in their recorded history that the entire species has faced a single external threat. All previous data points involved only portions of their population working together. But, he continued, if their pattern holds true, we can expect technological advancement at rates that defy physics, tactical innovations that contradict military science, and strategic thinking that operates outside logical parameters. The War Council sat in stunned silence as the implications sank in. They had not attacked a primitive species. They had challenged a race of warriors who had spent hundreds of thousands of years fighting for survival against impossible odds. Sir, Communications Specialist Nothek interrupted the meeting. We are receiving another transmission from the human fleet. The message appeared on the main display. Admiral Chen appeared, but this time he was not alone. Behind him stood representatives from dozens of other species, aliens that the Empire had planned to conquer in future expansion campaigns. Supreme Commander Vexthari, Chen said, his voice carrying absolute confidence. By now, your intelligence division has analyzed our history. You know what we are. You know what we are capable of. This is your final opportunity to withdraw from our space and leave us in peace. The human admiral gestured to the aliens behind him. These species have joined our alliance. We have shared our defensive technologies with them. We have taught them how to fight as we fight. Your empire now faces not just humanity, but a coalition of worlds that refuses to accept conquest. Chen leaned forward, his eyes reflecting something that made even battle-hardened Imperial officers uncomfortable. You have made the greatest error in your empire's history. You challenged a species that has never known true peace, that has survived everything the universe could throw at us, and that grows stronger with every threat we face. The transmission ended, leaving the Empire to contemplate the magnitude of their mistake. They had awakened something that should have been left sleeping, something that had been forged in the crucible of survival for millennia. They had challenged humanity, and humanity was ready to show them what that meant. 6 months after the first human ship had sacrificed itself against an Imperial cruiser, Supreme Commander Vexathari stood in the ruins of what had once been the Empire's most secure military facility. The irony was not lost on him. It had been destroyed by weapons built from Imperial technology, improved by human ingenuity, and deployed with a tactical brilliance that defied every principle of warfare he had learned. The war had not gone as anyone expected. The Empire had sent 4 additional battle fleets to Sol 3, confident that overwhelming force would crush human resistance. Instead, each new fleet had become a source of technology and tactics for the growing human alliance. The humans did not simply defeat Imperial forces, they studied them, learned from them, and turned their own advantages against them. Every captured ship became a teaching tool. Every prisoner became a source of information. Every battle became a lesson in Imperial weaknesses. Worse, the human alliance had grown beyond anyone's projections. What had started as 6 species willing to resist Imperial expansion had become a coalition of 43 worlds. The humans shared their rapid development techniques freely, teaching other species to innovate at impossible speeds. Admiral Chen's face appeared on the communication screen, no longer the defiant warrior from months ago, but something far more dangerous. A seasoned commander who had learned to think like his enemies while maintaining the advantages of human unpredictability. Supreme Commander, Chen said with polite formality that somehow felt more threatening than open hostility. We have received your latest surrender terms. After careful consideration, we must decline. Bexathari had spent weeks crafting those terms, offering the humans everything short of complete independence. Trade rights, technological exchanges, semi-autonomous governance, anything to end a war that was destroying the Empire's military capabilities. What do you want? Vexthari asked, though he suspected the answer would be unacceptable. Complete withdrawal of Imperial forces from all contested systems. Recognition of the Terran Alliance as a sovereign entity, reparations for the world's damage during your expansion campaigns, and a guarantee that the Empire will never again attempt conquest outside your current borders. The demands were impossible. The Empire could not simply abandon its expansion policies without appearing weak to other potential challengers. Yet the alternative was continued warfare against an enemy that grew stronger with every passing day. And if we refuse? Vexthari asked, knowing the answer would be equally unacceptable. Chen's expression hardened. Then we will continue what you started. Our alliance now includes species from 43 star systems. We have reverse-engineered your faster-than-light communication networks, your shield technology, your weapon systems, and your ship designs. We have improved upon all of them. The human admiral gestured, and the display showed tactical information that made Vexithari's blood run cold. The human alliance had not just defended themselves, they had gone on the offensive. Imperial outposts throughout the Outer Rim were under coordinated attack by forces using technologies that surpassed anything the Empire possessed. Your Empire has grown complacent through centuries of easy victories, Chen continued. You forgot that warfare is not about superior technology or overwhelming numbers. It is about adapting faster than your enemy, learning from failure and never giving up. These are things humanity has never forgotten. Vexithari studied the tactical displays showing Imperial defeats across multiple sectors. Human-designed ships flown by Alliance pilots were systematically dismantling forces that had conquered half the galaxy. The enemy was not just winning. They were teaching the Empire's former subjects how to be free. You understand what this means? Chen asked. We are not just defending ourselves anymore. We are liberating every world your Empire has enslaved. Every species you have conquered will have the chance to choose their own destiny. The implications were staggering. If the human alliance succeeded in freeing Imperial territories, the Empire would collapse entirely. Thousands of years of expansion and conquest would be undone by a species they had dismissed as primitive. How? Vexthari asked quietly.
How did you advance so quickly?
Our scientists spent millennia developing the technologies you mastered in months. Chen smiled, and for the first time, there was genuine warmth in the expression. Because you developed your technology during peacetime, with unlimited resources and no pressure to innovate. We developed ours during war, with our survival at stake. When a species fights for its existence, it becomes capable of miracles. Your Empire made the same mistake every dominant power makes. You became predictable. You followed the same strategies that had worked for millennia, because you never faced an enemy that required adaptation. You stopped growing because growth was no longer necessary for survival. Vexithari understood now. The Empire's greatest strength, its unity, its order, its predictable patterns of conquest, had become its greatest weakness when facing an enemy that thrived on chaos and adaptation. You have 48 hours to begin withdrawal from all contested systems, Chen announced. After that, we will consider any Imperial presence in Alliance territory an act of aggression and respond accordingly. The transmission ended, leaving Vexithari alone with the weight of the Empire's greatest defeat. In trying to conquer humanity, they had awakened something that would reshape the entire galaxy. The age of Imperial expansion was over. 3 years later, the Zephyrian Galactic Empire existed only in the core systems around their homeworld. The human alliance had grown into a confederation of over 100 worlds, each choosing their own government while cooperating on defense and technological development. The galaxy's power structure had been completely transformed. Instead of one empire dominating through force, there were dozens of independent alliances working together by choice. The humans had not simply defeated the Empire, they had shown the galaxy a better way to organize civilization. Vexthari, now in exile on a remote world far from the former Imperial capital, received visitors occasionally, other military commanders from species that had challenged humanity and lost. They came seeking understanding of their defeat. To each of them, he gave the same warning that had become his life's mission. Never challenge a species that has spent its entire existence learning to survive impossible odds. Never attack an enemy that becomes stronger when threatened. And never underestimate the power of those who fight not for conquest, but for the right to exist. The humans had taught the galaxy a lesson that would be remembered for millennia. Sometimes the greatest threats come from the most unexpected places. Sometimes primitive species possess advantages that advanced civilizations have forgotten. And sometimes challenging the wrong enemy can cost you everything you have built. In the end, the Zephyrian Empire's greatest error was not underestimating human technology or military capability. It was failing to understand that humanity was a species forged by adversity, shaped by struggle, and refined by millennia of fighting for survival against impossible odds. They had challenged not just another primitive species, but the embodiment of evolution's most successful survival strategy, the ability to adapt, overcome, and grow stronger through adversity. They had challenged humanity, and humanity had accepted,